The night air was thick with mist, and the forest groaned with the weight of silence. A sudden, sharp snap echoed, piercing the stillness. A young fox shrieked, its cry muffled as iron jaws clamped around its leg. Leaves rustled in frantic rhythm as claws scraped against wood. Pain twisted through every sound, raw and desperate. The moon, pale and watchful, spilled cold light across the struggling creature. Each breath of the fox was short, ragged, a battle against fear. Shadows stretched like predators across the trees, watching, waiting. Far off an owl cried, but the forest remained otherwise mute, as though frozen in dread. The fox pulled, twisted, bit at the trap, but the metal refused to yield. A streak of blood stained the ground, marking its fight against steel. The woods whispered with menace, yet no savior came. The fox's eyes burned with wild fire, fierce but drowning in terror. Darkness pressed close, choking the world with its silence, as though the night itself demanded witness to suffering. Branches swayed, whispering warnings through the fog. The fox whimpered, teeth gnashing, as it fought a losing war with steel. A faint rustle stirred nearby, as if unseen eyes watched. The ground reeked of iron and earth, heavy with dread. Insects crawled over damp soil, oblivious to the suffering above. The trap creaked with each tremor of struggle, cruel and unrelenting. The fox's fur shimmered with dew, matted with streaks of red. Shadows deepened, turning the forest into a maze of menace. The air grew colder, sinking like icy fingers around the fox's fragile body. Hope was absent, only raw fear thrumming in the silence. Every sound sharpened into threat, every breath felt stolen. The night pressed down like a predator, unyielding and merciless. The silence was broken by a sudden hoot from an owl, its cry hollow and distant. The fox froze, ears twitching, breath halted in mid-gasp. Its body trembled, every nerve alive with panic. The forest seemed to shrink around it, branches leaning closer, the mist swirling heavier. Time dragged like a cruel weight, stretching each heartbeat into eternity. The fox pawed weakly at the ground, claws raking grooves into soil. The smell of its blood thickened the air, mingling with wet earth. A gust of wind swept through the trees, scattering leaves, carrying the scent of suffering further. The owl's call echoed again, a grim herald in the night. The fox whimpered, lowering its head, amber eyes dulled by exhaustion. Fear consumed the clearing, an invisible cage around the trapped survivor. The fox's breaths grew shallow, steam rising faintly from its nostrils. The mist coiled around its body, shrouding it in ghostly white. Each movement was slower, weaker, a fading fire dimming in the night. The trap gleamed with cruel beauty, polished by moonlight, a silent predator clutching tight. Thor's floor held a canvas of red trails where the fox had fought. The fox's ears twitched, listening for salvation, but only silence replied. Its jaw slackened, teeth smeared with blood and soil. The woods loomed, indifferent to the struggle, ancient guardians unmoved by one life's fight. Yet in the stillness, the fox's eyes burned faintly, clinging to survival. Despair lingered, but so did defiance, woven into each labored breath. The night deepened, pressing heavier upon the forest floor. The fox shivered, a fragile frame locked in a merciless grip. Its amber eyes flickered, a fire battling against the suffocating dark. The air thickened, carrying every sound like a warning bell. The snapping of a branch in the distance made the fox jolt, muscles straining with what little strength remained. Its tail twitched weakly, brushing against cold soil. The trap remained still, merciless as stone. The forest silence was deafening, suffused with menace and expectation. No savior stepped into the clearing, no mercy broke the night. Only the struggle of a fading life echoed, swallowed slowly by mist and moonlight. Ethan pushed through the thick brush, lantern swinging at his side. His breath was sharp in the cold, mist clinging to his jacket. He muttered, "I should have been here sooner." The forest felt alive, whispering secrets in the dark. His boots crunched over wet soil, every step a promise of urgency. He stopped, hearing the faint cry again, broken and pained. The sound cut straight through him, stirring old memories of loss he could never bury. He swallowed hard, jaw tight, heart pounding as he pressed forward. The light flickered across branches, casting jagged shadows that looked like reaching hands. He whispered, "Hold on, I'm coming," as if the animal could hear him. Fear and guilt laced his steps, dragging ghosts from the past into this night. His pace quickened, driven not only by duty, but by something deeper. This wasn't just about survival, it was about redemption. The faint cry guided Ethan into a clearing, where shadows deepened like a trap of their own. He froze, chest rising fast, lantern trembling in his grip. There at the edge of light, the fox writhed. Its amber eyes locked onto him, wild and feral, a mirror of fear. Ethan whispered, "God, it's worse than I thought." He lowered the lantern, kneeling slowly, making himself small. His heart thundered, but his voice softened. "Easy now. I won't hurt you." The fox snarled weakly, blood glistening on its fur. Ethan's gut twisted. The sight was too close to old scars, memories of a creature he had once failed. His throat tightened, but he reached out anyway. The distance between them was more than space. It was trust, broken before it could begin. He knew the animal saw him as threat, not savior. But he also knew he couldn't leave. Ethan steadied his breathing, his fingers brushing the cold earth. "I've been here before," he muttered, almost to himself. The fox growled faintly, dragging against the snare, every motion agony. Ethan clenched his jaw. The memory of a past rescue gone wrong stabbed his mind. A doe he couldn't save. The sound of her cries haunted him still. He whispered, "Not again. I won't fail you." His lantern flickered, shadows crawling over the fox's trembling body. Ethan reached into his pack, pulling out an old cloth and small toolkit. His hands shook, not from the cold, but from fear. He knew the fox could lash out, yet he inched closer anyway. Every heartbeat was a war inside him, caution versus compassion. He let the past fuel him, not paralyze him. Tonight, he swore, would not end the same. The fox's body shook, amber eyes locked on Ethan's every move. Ethan whispered, "I know you don't trust me, but I'll try anyway." His voice cracked, heavy with past failures. The trap glimmered cold under moonlight, its cruelty undeniable. Ethan reached forward, slowly, letting the fox see every motion. The animal snarled, snapping its teeth, but lacked strength. Ethan flinched but steadied himself. "I deserve that," he muttered, his tone both bitter and gentle. His fingers brushed the trap, testing its tension. The steel was unforgiving. His lantern light flickered across his face, illuminating a war between fear and determination. The fox thrashed weakly, fur damp with sweat and blood. Ethan felt the weight of time pressing, but he whispered again, "Stay with me. Just a little longer." The bond wasn't trust yet, but it was something fragile being born in the night. Ethan's chest heaved as the fox's gaze pierced him. He whispered, "You remind me of her," though no one was listening. The memory of the absent doe burned fresh, but it only hardened his resolve. His hand hovered over the trap, muscles trembling. Every second stretched into eternity. The fox's breath came in harsh bursts, fog curling from its nostrils. Ethan steadied himself, pulling his cloth tighter around his hand, a shield against teeth. He knew the risk. "Hurt me if you must," he said softly, "but I won't walk away." His lantern flame quivered, reflecting in the fox's wet eyes. The world around them faded into silence, only two beings locked in a fragile moment. Pain, fear, and determination hung in the air. Ethan inhaled deeply, summoning strength for the first attempt at freedom. Wind hissed through the pines as rain began to needle the clearing. Ethan knelt by the fox and whispered, "I know you're scared." The radio on his belt crackled with static and then died. The first thunder rolled like a warning drum. He wrapped a scarf near the wound, and the fox snapped, missing by inches. "I won't hurt you," he said, steady but shaking. The storm pressed closer, flattening the mist into sheets. He weighed the choice to move now, or hold the line. The ground was turning slick, swallowing tracks in seconds. If I wait, the river will rise, he muttered. The fox dragged at the snare, eyes glassed with pain and fire. Ethan's own breath shortened, memory crowding his ribs. Not like last time, he said, and tightened the knot. Lightning scarred the sky. He chose motion. A beam of light swept through trees. Then a voice called, "Ethan, it's me." Ava slid into the clearing, pack rattling. "You picked a hell of a night," she said, forcing a smile. He nodded toward the wound. "I need your tape and saline." The fox bristled, lips peeling back. "He won't accept help," Ava said softly. Ethan answered, "We'll give help anyway." She glanced at the sky. The creek's rising fast. He steadied the leg as Ava cleaned. The fox shuddered, then lunged. He took the bite on his sleeve. "Easy," he breathed, refusing to flinch. Thunder hammered the ridge like iron doors closing. "Route south is washed out," Ava warned. Ethan stared north, where the old logging road vanished into dark. "Then we go north," he said. The rain agreed. They built a sling from Ava's webbing and Ethan's coat. "He'll fight it," she warned. "He can fight while we move," Ethan said. The fox bucked when lifted, teeth clacking against fabric. "I know," Ethan gasped, keep breathing. The trail pitched downhill, mud slick as oil. Branches whipped their faces while thunder boxed their ears. "We should shelter," Ava urged. "If we stop, the water pins us," he replied. The sling lurched. Ethan slipped, slammed a knee, and rose cursing breath. The fox's panic became rhythm, fierce and ragged. "You're stubborn," he said, "so am I." A tree crashed nearby, the forest jumping underfoot. "Half a mile more," Ava called, though neither believed it. The night tightened like a knot, and they pulled against it. Floodwater roared below the footbridge, brown and hungry. Ava tested a plank and recoiled. "Rot," she said. Ethan scanned the dark bank for options. "Up and around adds hours," she warned. The fox trembled, breath sawing. "He won't last that climb," Ethan said. A sign hung crooked from a rusted chain. "Private road, do not enter." "We break the lock," Ava said, voice small. Ethan felt the law in his bones and the river in his blood. "If we wait for permission, he drowns," he answered. The fox hissed, as if urging the choice. Lightning threw their shadows far and thin. "We cross now, one at a time," Ethan decided. The bridge groaned, and the rain clapped. Ava swallowed. "Then you go first." He stepped onto the wood, daring it. Each board complained under Ethan's weight. Water struck the beams like fists. "Keep your eyes on me," he told the fox, as if focus could hold the world. The middle span dipped, soaking his boots. Ava whispered, "2 more steps." The sling swung. The fox thrashed, and the board split. Ethan lunged, catching a cable with burning hands. "Move," Ava cried. He hauled the sling to his chest and scrambled to a firmer plank. The bridge shivered, shedding nails into the river. Sirens of wind wailed along the gorge. On the far bank, a chain-link gate barred the road. "We're not stopping," Ethan said, voice iron. He lowered the sling and breathed once. "Ava, bolt cutters." She stared. "I didn't pack law-breaking." He grinned without joy. "Then I'll improvise." Ethan crouched low, lantern casting dim light across the fox's trembling body. The steel trap glistened, but something else caught his eye, faint markings burned into the metal. His heart stuttered. These weren't random snares. He whispered, "This wasn't an accident." The fox snarled weakly, amber eyes flashing as though it knew the truth too. Ethan's breath fogged the air, heavy with disbelief. He brushed the dirt aside, uncovering a symbol etched deep, a hunter's mark, one he had seen before. Rage rose in his chest, memory flooding back of confiscated cages, and men who laughed at pain. Someone did this on purpose, he muttered bitterly, voice low. His pulse thundered, the night pressing tighter, darker. The forest no longer felt indifferent, it felt complicit, hiding secrets in its silence. The truth burned like fire, cruelty, not chance, had forged this trap. The memory of his father's voice came unbidden, harsh, and cold. Ethan had been a boy then, told to ignore the suffering of creatures caught in snares. "They're vermin," his father had said. His fists clenched as the past carved itself into the present. Thoughts shifted, whimpering, and Ethan's gaze hardened. This was not just rescue anymore, it was defiance, a rebellion against cruelty woven into his bloodline. His voice shook. "I won't be like him." The lantern flickered, shadows twisting his expression into one of fury and grief. He stared at the mark again, feeling the weight of generations pressing down. His chest ached with anger, sorrow, and determination. The trap wasn't just iron. It was legacy, poisoned and cruel. He would break it no matter the cost, if only to silence the echo of a father who had never cared. A twig snapped behind him, sharp as a gunshot. Ethan spun, lantern rays heart hammering. A figure emerged from the fog, a man older, weathered, holding a rifle slung over his shoulder. His cold eyes caught the light. Ethan's breath stalled. It wasn't just any hunter. It was Marcus, the one who had taught Ethan's father the cruelty of the snare. Marcus sneered, voice dripping disdain, "Still wasting your time on pests." The weight of history bore down, suffocating. Ethan gritted his teeth, rage flooding through him. The fox whimpered, a broken cry slicing the tension. Ethan whispered, "Not pests, lives." The words felt heavier than steel. Marcus laughed, bitter and hollow, his shadow long and monstrous. The past was no longer memory, it had stepped into the clearing, rifle in hand, daring Ethan to defy it. Marcus's boots crunched against the soil as he stepped closer. His voice was sharp, carrying contempt. "You think you're saving it? You'll only let it suffer longer." Ethan's jaw tightened, lantern trembling in his grip. The fox's eyes flicked between them, wild and frightened. Ethan shot back, "Suffering is what you left it with." The night air vibrated with tension, mist curling like smoke between them. Marcus scoffed, "You sound just like your mother. Soft, foolish." The insult sliced deeper than any blade, but Ethan stood his ground. His chest heaved, rage and grief colliding. "If that makes me weak, then I'll gladly be weak." The lantern light flickered, illuminating both men's faces, one hardened by cruelty, the other lit with fire. The forest seemed to wait, breathless, for what would happen next. The clearing pulsed with silence, broken only by the fox's ragged breaths. Ethan lowered his lantern, stepping slightly in front of the injured creature. Marcus tilted his head, amused but cold. "You'll risk yourself for a beast that'll bite you the second it's free?" Ethan's voice was steady, fueled by truth. "It's not about trust, it's about choosing not to be like you." His words hung heavy, echoing into the trees. Marcus's smirk faltered for the first time, his shadow shrinking against the mist. The fox whimpered, pressing weakly against the ground, amber eyes gleaming faintly. Ethan felt his heartbeat steady, his purpose sharpened. The revelation was clear. This rescue was never only about the fox. It was about breaking chains that had bound him since childhood. The past had tried to claim him, but tonight he chose differently. The mist thickened as Marcus lifted his rifle, eyes sharp with cruel intent. Ethan stepped forward, chest burning with fear but rooted in defiance. "If you want the fox, you'll go through me," he said, voice steady though his hands shook. The lantern flame trembled, throwing wild shadows across the trees. The fox whimpered, pulling weakly at the trap, every sound urgent and desperate. Marcus smirked, lowering the barrel toward the ground. "You think one life matters? It's nothing." Ethan's heart pounded, blood roaring in his ears. His gaze flicked to the fox, then back at Marcus. "It matters to me," he snapped, his voice raw and fierce. Time stretched thin, the night holding its breath. The trap gleamed under moonlight, the line between mercy and cruelty drawn sharper than steel. The choice now meant everything. Ethan's hand hovered over the trap, his breath sharp as blades. The fox growled faintly, its amber eyes wild with pain. Marcus scoffed, "You'll lose your hand before you free it." Ethan's jaw clenched, wrapping cloth tighter around his palm. "Then I'll lose it," he muttered, pressing fingers against the steel jaws. The trap resisted, groaning under his effort. His muscles trembled, sweat slick on his forehead. The fox snapped at him in panic, teeth grazing the cloth. Ethan didn't flinch. His teeth ground together as he strained. "Come on," he growled through clenched teeth, every pull tearing at his strength. The steel dug deeper, as if mocking his resolve. Marcus's chuckle drifted through the clearing, bitter and sharp. The forest pulsed with silence, broken only by Ethan's grunt and the fox's cries. It was strength versus cruelty, locked in iron. The jaws of the trap creaked, opening only a fraction before snapping back. Ethan cursed under his breath, his arms burning from effort. Marcus leaned against a tree, voice dripping poison. "You'll kill it faster trying like that." Ethan shot him a glare, fury blazing. "Better to die free than rot in your trap," he spat. The fox's body writhed, blood slickening the ground. Ethan pressed again, every muscle screaming, veins bulging in his neck. His lantern tipped, flame flaring wildly, casting fierce shadows across the clearing. "I won't stop," Ethan rasped, voice hoarse from strain. The trap groaned, its resistance breaking inch by inch. Marcus shook his head, amused but restless. The fox's cry tore through the air, raw and haunting, fueling Ethan's resolve. It was a battle of flesh against iron, of will against legacy. Ethan's arms shook violently, the cloth tearing under the fox's frantic bites. Pain shot through his hand as teeth grazed his skin. He hissed, but did not let go. "Fight me if you must. But I won't leave you," he whispered fiercely. The fox's eyes widened, something flickering beyond fear, confusion, maybe faint recognition. Marcus snarled, stepping forward, rifle raised. "Enough! Step back before I put it out of its misery." Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs, the moment spinning out of control. He pulled one last time, screaming through the strain. The trap screeched, metal bending against resistance. Sparks of strength ignited through exhaustion. The jaws widened a fraction more, enough for the fox's leg to twitch free. Ethan gasped, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. The world trembled with the weight of what came next. The trap snapped open with a violent crack, sending Ethan sprawling backward. The fox collapsed, panting, its leg mangled but free. Ethan's chest heaved, lantern spilling light across broken steel. Marcus froze, rifle half raised, eyes narrowing. Ethan rose shakily, shielding the fox with his body. His voice trembled but burned with fire. "It's over. You won't take this life." Marcus sneered, finger twitching on the trigger, but something in Ethan's stance stopped him. The fox, though weak, dragged itself behind Ethan, pressing against his boot. The bond was fragile, but it was real. Ethan's bloodied hand clenched the cloth, knuckles white. Silence smothered the clearing, the final heartbeat before choice. Marcus's smirk faltered, shadows flickering across his face. Ethan's defiance stood unbroken, a wall between cruelty and survival. The climax hung sharp as steel in the air. The rifle lowered slowly, Marcus' smirk fading into silence. The forest exhaled as though relieved, mist curling around the broken trap. Ethan sank to his knees, chest heaving, his bloodied hand trembling. The fox lay weak but free, amber eyes watching him with fragile trust. He whispered softly, "You're safe now," though he knew survival was uncertain. The weight of battle lifted, leaving only exhaustion and aching relief. Marcus turned away, muttering curses, fading into the fog like a ghost of cruelty. Ethan barely noticed. His focus clung to the trembling creature before him, Every breath it took proof of defiance against pain. The night was quieter now, the shadows less menacing, as if the forest itself acknowledged the struggle. Ethan closed his eyes briefly, whispering to the absent past. This time, I didn't fail. Ethan leaned closer, inspecting the fox's mangled leg. The wound was raw, crimson soaking into the earth. He tore fabric from his sleeve, hands steady now with purpose rather than fear. This will hurt, he murmured, wrapping the cloth gently. The fox flinched, teeth baring but didn't strike. Trust flickered faintly, fragile as dawn. Ethan's lantern flickered low, its flame dim but persistent, just like them. He tied the cloth tightly, halting the bleeding as best he could. Sweat dripped into his eyes, but he kept working. The forest stood silent, a solemn witness to the act. Ethan's voice broke into a whisper. You're more than a rescue, you're proof we can change. His words sank into the night like prayer. For the first time, the weight of guilt eased, replaced by fragile hope. The fox shifted, pressing its trembling body closer to Ethan's boot. It wasn't gratitude, not yet, but it wasn't rejection either. Ethan blinked back tears, throat tight. His voice was hoarse. You fought harder than I ever could. He brushed dirt over the shattered trap, burying its cruelty beneath soil. The forest smelled of iron and earth, yet the air felt lighter. Marcus's shadow was gone, leaving behind silence rich with possibility. Ethan stood slowly, stretching sore muscles, lantern lifted high. The fox limped a few steps, collapsing again, but its eyes still burned with life. Ethan smiled faintly, grief and relief mingling. You'll heal, he said, more to himself than the animal. Every heartbeat told him this moment mattered, even if the world never knew. Redemption was not loud. It lived in choices like this. Ethan sank back to the ground, exhaustion pressing heavy on his body. The fox's labored breath slowed, but its chest still rose with stubborn rhythm. He whispered, You'll rest now. And so will I. His voice cracked with a softness rarely spoken. The lantern flame burned lower, casting gold over his tired features. The forest felt less like an enemy now, its whispers calmer, less sharp. He thought of the absent doe, of all he had lost, and for the first time he did not feel crushed by the memory. Instead, he felt carried by it, as though she had led him here to save this life. His hand rested lightly near the fox, not touching, just present. A promise unspoken filled the air. No more abandonment, no more silence. The night seemed to bow its head in solemn respect. The clearing settled into fragile peace, the echoes of struggle fading. Ethan stared upward at the pale moon, its light softer now, less cruel. His voice was barely audible. We both survived tonight somehow. The fox stirred, head lifting briefly before resting again, eyes still alert despite exhaustion. Ethan's lips curled into the faintest smile, weary but true. The forest felt alive, no longer indifferent but witness to change. The broken steel lay buried, a grave marker of cruelty past. Ethan's heart ached, but not with despair, with release. His chest rose with a deep breath, the kind he had not felt in years. He whispered to the night, This is enough. The moment was not triumph, but it was healing, and it was his. In that fragile silence he found peace. Dawn began to stretch over the forest, soft light replacing the cruel silver of the moon. Ethan stirred, weary eyes opening to a gentler world. The fox raised its head, ears twitching at the distant song of birds. For the first time, the clearing no longer felt like a graveyard but a sanctuary. Ethan whispered, Morning came for us both. His voice was tender, almost disbelieving. He sat still, savoring the quiet, knowing such moments were rare. The fox limped forward a step, fragile but alive, its breath steady in the crisp air. The mist glowed gold now, lifting slowly as though the night's suffering was being carried away with it. Ethan rose slowly, his muscles aching with every movement. He looked down at the fox, who stood unsteadily, but its eyes glowed with resilience. You're stronger than me, he murmured with a faint smile. The forest felt transformed, no longer hostile but alive with renewal. Dew shimmered like jewels across the grass, reflecting the new sun. Ethan's chest loosened as the burden of guilt eased at last. The fox limped forward again, amber gaze locking briefly on him, a silent acknowledgement of survival shared. Ethan bowed his head, humbled by the creature's endurance. There were no words needed, only breath, only life. The fox paused at the edge of the clearing, its wounded leg trembling, but its spirit unbroken. Ethan stood still, hands loose at his sides, resisting the urge to follow. He whispered softly, "Go on." The fox looked back once, its gaze lingering long enough to etch itself into Ethan's memory forever. The bond they shared was fragile, wordless, but undeniable. Then, with one final breath, the fox turned and limped into the forest shadows that were now bathed in dawn. Ethan's heart clenched and released, a strange mixture of grief and peace washing over him. The absence would remain, but so would the meaning. The forest reclaimed its rhythm, bird song weaving into the still air. Ethan lowered himself onto a fallen log, lantern dark at his feet. He exhaled slowly, a sound that carried release. For the first time, silence did not suffocate him. Instead, it held him gently. He thought of the absent doe, of all the ghosts that had haunted him, and he realized they had led him here, to this choice, this redemption. His eyes glistened as he whispered, "I finally did right." The sun rose higher, painting the mist with fire, a promise of renewal. The world did not cheer, but it did not need to. Peace was enough. Ethan rose once more, shoulders lighter, eyes on the horizon where light spilled across the trees. The fox was gone, but its presence lingered like a heartbeat in the air. He whispered a final vow, "Never again will I walk away." His words dissolved into the morning breeze, carried through the forest like a quiet promise. The last traces of mist vanished, leaving only sunlight. Ethan stepped forward, not toward the past but into what lay ahead. The forest no longer felt cursed but sacred, a place of pain transformed into purpose. His story would fade, but its echo would endure, etched not in triumph, but in the fragile survival of a single wild life.